Special thanks to Jason and O'Shane Husey for, you know, building the bridge and reaching out to me and making me aware of this opportunity. So I'm really happy to be able to present to the team. So I see that we have 111 students online. I don't see any faces. Anyone care to share their camera?
My camera is on.
Thank you so much. But I know we're all at home and it's a graveyard shift, but I really want to make sure that this session is useful to everyone who's online. So as much as possible, um, please be engaged. Feel free to ask questions. Stop me at any time. I'm not a lecturer. I'm not a presenter. So again, I want to make sure this is conversational and useful for the students. So firstly, I want to congratulate all the students, right, for taking this important step for or towards becoming accountants, right? So I understand that almost all students are either final year or third year accounting students. And I was very happy and I'm pleased to know that persons are still undertaking careers in accounting. I remember when I graduated high school in, I think, 1998, and I did the math, and I know half of you weren't born yet, so I'm getting old. But I did the math, and when I graduated, or before I graduated, I selected a couple of A-level subjects. I was confused about my career. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. So I did 3 A-levels at the time. So it was Spanish, geography, and accounting. And none of those subjects have nothing to do with the other. You could tell my confusion, but you could see my confusion by the way that I selected my subjects. So but what I wanted to do though was to give myself options, because again I wasn't sure what I wanted to do with my life. I could do accounting because I had the accounts. I could go into meteorology because I wanted to read the weather on primetime news. Or I wanted to travel the world, become an ambassador, speak Spanish. So that's the genesis of why I did what I did. Um, but ultimately, because of my love for accounting, I ended up studying accounting at the University of the West Indies. And along the way, people discouraged me, right? It was someone said to me that 10 years from now, accountants, all they'll be doing is counting ants. And I was very discouraged because I thought that 10 years from now, the computer technology will be taking over the role. But the point I'm trying to make here is there is still a need for accountants or persons with background in accounting in today's society and in the job market. So, don't be discouraged. I think you guys are taking the right step, in choosing a career path that can be fruitful for everyone. So today I'll be speaking on personal effectiveness, or I've been asked to speak on personal effectiveness. And actually, I chose to speak on personal effectiveness. O'Shane gave me a list of topics that the team was studying as a part of, the accounting seminar. A lot of it was technical, right? So I'm happy that you're touching on technical aspects of accounting, but I was very pleased again to see that you're considering the personal or the soft skills aspect, because it's very important, right? It's easy enough for accountants to go behind a screen or going up the back office and take out their calculator and do some math or do some financial statements. But personal skills is important in what we do. So I'm going to take you through, my knowledge of personal effectiveness. My aim here is to share with you from my own personal experiences. I'm trying to share the content here. Let me just log in. Right, so while I go through the content, I want to relate this back to some of my own personal experiences. Um, and I'm hoping that this can be useful to the team here. So is everyone seeing the presentation? And
No, I'm not seeing it.
yeah, I'm just need someone to confirm.
Okay, good evening, Accounting Seminar 2020-2021. Hi, Miss Taylor. I think it's going to take some time to load, so you'd have to just give it a minute and then it will come on.
Okay.
Right, there it is now. It's on now.
Yeah, I hope I spelled that correctly. Okay, great.
Yes.
So guys, so we're gonna move into the topics at hand. So personal effectiveness. There are many facets to personal effectiveness. I'm going to be covering time management and personal development planning as a part of the presentation. So it's helpful to understand what the objectives are today. The key objectives today, I want to ensure that we leave the session with an understanding of the importance of personal effectiveness in a professional setting. I want to ensure that we understand and can apply personal development planning in career and performance management. And last, I want to ensure that we can develop time management strategies to foster personal effectiveness. Again, stop me where you want to ask questions. I'm not seeing videos, which is fine, but I'll gladly answer any questions you may have along the way. Okay, so let's just get into some definitions here on personal effectiveness. So what really is personal effectiveness? And what are we talking about when we say when we want to exercise personal effectiveness? So personal effectiveness implies making the most of our abilities or skills or energy and our time with the end game of improving our overall success and well-being. And like I mentioned before, I'm going to focus on the professional aspect, but the skills that you develop or utilize can be personal as well as professional. And why is this even important? Like I started off by saying, within this accounting seminar, you're addressing technical skills, you're addressing the soft skills. So it's important because it allows us to do a couple of things. You can deliver a person who's effective in a professional setting normally delivers high quality work. They make people happy. People are glad or happy to work with them in a team, for example. They're able to positively influence people. Influence is very key in any career, any job that you find yourself in. As you move through the organization, that's what I would say in terms of skills. I'd say that needs to be the number one skill because you're going to have to be able to influence your peers, your superiors. That's how you move up the ladder. Person who is personally effective, it allows them to advance, themselves in their career. We mentioned creation of successful relationships. That's also key. You need to be thinking about how do you build relationships in the workplace, right? How do you influence, gain the right relationships? And let me just stop here to say that influence, which I was speaking about earlier, is made possible when you have the right relationships. Sometimes people ask me the question, how do you influence someone you don't manage? How do I get people to do what I need them to do and they don't report to me? It really starts by having the right relationship with everyone. You're going to have to show respect to everyone, not just your boss, but your peers. And I think people come to value respect. And as such, when you're respected, it's easy to influence. So I just wanted to insert that there. Last but not, well, not last but not least, let me skip the money part. Personal effectiveness allows you to become an expert in whatever field you are. And last but not least, it allows you to earn a lot of money. That's somebody may question that, but I don't think anyone is here taking a course in accounting or doing a BSc in accounting just because they love accounting. The end goal is so that you can have, or a good job where you're earning money to sustain yourself. So I want to stress here. Very important. It's what keeps you in a job, right? When you're effective, if you should ask persons who are thinking about resigning, I'm not sure how many people in this group are already working. I'm assuming you have people who are part-time, if not full-time, working full-time. If you ask anybody who, if they've ever thought about resigning their job, why? You're going to expect them to say it's money. But a recent survey conducted, and I don't know the exact source, but I just remember seeing it. 90% of respondents mentioned that the main factor influencing their decision to leave their jobs was the fact that they were unfulfilled, they weren't effective. So again, if you don't feel like you're making progress in your job environment, you're probably going to leave that job. So again, it's important to really look at what it means to be personally effective and take the right steps at getting there. Now, as I mentioned before, there are many aspects to personal effectiveness. The two I want to touch on tonight are personal development planning and time management. I'm going to spend some time on personal development planning because this is a good tool which you can use at any point in your career to build on your skills and to take stock. I think I lost my slides. Just give me a minute here. Is everyone able to see the slides, or are we? Because I'm no longer seeing it on my screen.
Hi, Miss Taylor. No, we're not seeing the slides. Pops, you're seeing it from your end. Possibly you could stop sharing and then no, stop sharing and then try to
Yeah,
share again.
I'm not seeing it. I lost. It seems like I lost the. Okay, I just hit share again. I think I'm fine. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, so we're gonna move on to this slide here. What is personal development planning? So personal development planning, it involves an action. It involves creating an action plan designed to improve knowledge and abilities. And these are typically developed for career planning, performance management, or general self-improvement. So it's a deliberate action. I think a lot of people, there's a popular belief that you can get by on your looks. No such thing unless you're in modeling, or even so, if you're a model, you're gonna have to keep up those looks. You're gonna have to work out, take care of yourself. But personal development is an action. I just want to make sure everyone understands that it's something that you're deliberate about doing. Let's not cruise through life, right? And I think you guys get it, because the fact that you're all studying accounting, you're final year students, it tells me you're working towards this goal. So it's an action, it's a continuous action, it never ends. It doesn't matter what level you're at, you always have to take action if you want to improve at any point in life, in any setting. So if you look at that, the box to the right, right hand corner of the this screen here, you're seeing 4 main steps. So personal development at a minimum will involve some level of self-discovery. And what that means is that you're going to have to ask yourself, what do I do well? What are my strengths? What do I need to improve on? What are my weaknesses? What skills do I have? So it's really taking stock of where you're at. That goes into self-assessments, which I really won't focus on too much tonight. And then, like I said, taking action. But before you can take action, you have to set goals. And again, please, if you don't take away anything else, I want you to take away the fact that this is a deliberate action on your part. You have to make the effort to write your goals down. There was a time when I just had my goals in my head, and I felt like I was stagnant because I wasn't really moving past setting goals. So it's important to write your goals down, whether they be long term, short term, so that you're not stuck in your career. So you're not stuck at any one place in life. So on the next slide, we're just going to go through one tool. There are many tools you can use to perform your personal development planning. And like I said, I'll be focusing on your self-discovery and your self-assessment and the goal setting. So if we move on to the next slide, I'm sure you've probably all seen this analysis already. It's called a SWOT analysis. SWOT, means strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. It's a tool that we use. I've seen this tool several times. I've seen it in my studies, and it's very useful. Even today, we use this as a tool for performance management of our team or staff members. So, every year we have team members perform or write their own performance evaluations. And this is the first step. We ask them to identify their strengths, their weaknesses, their opportunities, and their threats. Set their goals. What do they want to do for the year? What do they want to accomplish? And this is really just the baseline before you can even, in any sort of personal development planning task. So I could go through quickly strengths and weaknesses. I think they're self-explanatory. Strengths, what you do well. I gave some examples here. Some people they're good at multitasking. They're good at communication. There are people who are really sociable. They get along with their peers and their management team. Some weaknesses, again, I don't want people to look at weaknesses as something that should be held against you. The whole point is we do this analysis so we can identify where we're currently lacking so that we can quickly improve upon it. And that's the whole point. You write it down so you can find ways to address it. Some people are uncomfortable speaking in front of groups, but that's something that can be worked on. It doesn't come naturally. I'd say if you ask anyone who's in a senior role, this is something that they'll say is a weakness for them. It doesn't come naturally. It's something you have to work on. There are people who don't deal with stress well, right? They panic, get depressed, and so it impacts their work. That's something, again, if you identify that you can work on. You can see this last piece here, but it says little relevant work experience, which as students, you're probably going to say, yeah, that's me. It says weakness, but again, like I said, it's something that I don't have all work experience. How do I get it? How do I get it to move to the next level and start a career? So those are questions you want to be asking. Opportunities. These are, resources available to you that you can take advantage of to improve your skills. So whether you need to take a presentation course, volunteering to speak at a conference, getting involved in a special project, something outside of your normal, say, day-to-day studies or work. Those are things that will get you exposure. So very important. And then the last piece here is threats. These are things outside of your control that you want to always have a handle on. You want to make sure it's something you're aware of, and then you can tailor your plan based on that. So I have here your employers cutting back on training. What do you do when that happens? Do you then do your own trainings, source or self-service? You may feel that you're being overworked, which leads to stress. How do you handle that? Do you have a conversation with your manager? Do you speak with team members who aren't pulling their weight? So it's again identifying areas where you need to take an action. So SWOT analysis, very useful tool. I encourage, as students, if you haven't done this yet, I'll encourage you that after this session, you take stock of where you're at in terms of your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities. It's never too early to start working on this. You're going to see this again, I guarantee you, whichever job you land. And for those who are already working, you've probably seen this. So that said, I thought it would be useful to give you guys an idea of like what a personal development plan or sample plan looks like for an accountant. So any questions before I move on? Again, I feel lonely here in my basement because I can't see anyone except the moderator, but it would be good to hear any questions you have at this time. I'm just going to pause for like 2 seconds. Is that Dolores?
Yes, it is. Good evening,
Good
accounting
evening.
seminar. Good evening to our very lovely presenter. I'm one of the facilitators on the module. I know you mentioned earlier that as accountants, our jobs may become extinct because of technology. But apart from technology, what other threat do you see that can force us out of our jobs if we become complacent?
Okay, let me do the question. Let me be correct. So the whole obsolescence, like, sorry, I'm tongue tied there. Technology forcing people out of their jobs. That was something a close family member said to me when I said I wanted to do accounting, and I didn't listen. I did not listen to them. That's why I'm still here. But threats. But to your point, I like the question because you're saying if you become complacent, what can take the place of what you do? And when I give you an answer you don't like, I'm going to tell you someone else. It's not going to be the computer. It's not going to be technology. It's probably going to be a peer who isn't complacent.
Okay.
I think we operate in a very competitive environment, right? Where there's always companies looking to cost cut and become more efficient. And unfortunately, in becoming efficient, you normally see a reduction in workforce just to get there. And to some extent, that has to do with technology because maybe a company found or invested in technology which would make their processes more efficient. So they don't need, say they need 60 accountants. They no longer need 60, they need 30. But the point is, how do you ensure that you become one of those 30? That's what I really want you to focus on, right?
Right.
It's how do I make sure that I'm in the 30? And again, it's making sure you're differentiating yourself from your peers at any point in time. And taking time to put together your own personal plan of where your skills, where you want to go, and how you're going to accomplish it is important. Because I guarantee you, your peer is not doing this. I manage a team of 30 accountants. And if there's one thing I have to remind them of every day is, guys, please do your self-assessment. Please write down your objectives. And I can tell you, they probably leave this step for last because everyone's so busy. So my advice here is You be that one employee who writes down your goals and objectives, and take the steps that you need to get to the next level. Always think next level so that you are always setting yourself apart from your peers, so that in the event that your company says I need to get rid of 50% of the workforce, they're not looking at you because they know that you're someone who adds value to what they do. So I hope I was able to answer that question.
You did, thank you.
Yes, and thanks for the question. All right, so this is a sample development plan that I have on the screen here. Very important, like I said. It involves a couple of steps. Self-assessment, which we spoke about using the SWOT analysis. Setting your goals and objectives. And goals and objectives have to be SMART. I'm sure, again, you've learned about SMART goals, goals which are specific, relevant, and time-bound. After you set your goals, you want to look at some of the strategies and resources you're going to use to accomplish them. And then next, you look at your measurement of your goals. Like, what's your success criteria? How do you know that you met your goals? And target date is important. Never forget the target dates. I think if I'm looking at this diagram here, most people stop at column 2. Well, some people don't make it past column 1, self-assessment. But to differentiate yourself, going back to Laura's questions, you have to carry this through to strategies, measurement, and time. So, I mean, I won't read everything here, but this is a sample plan. I did this plan for an accountant from an accounting lens. This is just a sample. So self-assessment, we have an accountant or someone who is undertaking their studies in accounting, or someone who's a part-time accounting clerk. Their strengths are good interpersonal skills and communication skills, and they believe they need to develop leadership and management skills. Now, for a person like this, a SMART goal may be working for a Big 4 accounting firm. I think you should get as specific as that, right? Where do you want to work? When you leave Utech, where do you want to work? I think by now everyone should know where they want to work, where they want to end up. When I was at university, I determined that I want to work at PricewaterhouseCoopers. And so I know they have an annual career fair for final year students. I think it's at the end of the summer. And I made sure that I found out dates, place. I did my research to find out when they were going to be on campus so that I could be a part of the interview. So you need to be deliberate. Where am I going to work? What do I need to do? Attend a career fair. That's a strategy. The actual measurement is, did you attend the career fair? Yes, you did. And when do you want to attend it? By the end of the summer, for example. Other goals will involve, like, as you go through your career, you probably want to get a promotion. You want to earn a promotion to a senior accountant within 3 years, accounting director within 5 years. Some goals may include our monetary goals. Like, there's nothing wrong with saying I want a salary increase by 30%. And other goals may be, building on your skills, such as you want to obtain an accounting certification. So again, these are all SMART goals. These are examples of SMART goals that I would expect, to see an accountant employ. Strategies, you want to sit some sort of professional exam. So CPA, ACCA, I think those are the 2 most recognized ones. Join a professional organization. Some people determine that they want to do a master's degree and further, their education in that sense. Other resources include attending conferences, finding a mentor. If you're already working, you may want to accept more responsibilities at work. For someone here who thinks they need to develop their leadership skills, attend leadership courses. And then lastly here under strategies, I have update your resume. Always make sure you're updating your resume for every accomplishment. You know, your resume really is your selling point for an employer. So if you want to even achieve some of these things, have a good resume so that people can look at you. I do want to pause and just look at why all this is important, right? You can see the rest of the slide. We have measurement criteria. And then, like I said, because these are SMART goals, there should be a target date. Again, all of this is important for career growth. You know, career growth is one area where if you want to grow your career, you know, when you leave Utech, you're gonna want to not just stay at entry level, you're gonna want to move up the chain. So putting a plan together like this will allow you to assess where your skills are at, what goals you should be reaching for, how do you obtain those goals, you know, and how do you measure those. And it's important to meet with your managers, right? And discuss these. A lot of times people don't get promoted not because they're not good, but because no one knows that they want to be promoted. Like you have to be vocal about your career and where your next steps are, because that way you'll receive feedback. Because if Dolores, I'm gonna pick on you again. If Dolores comes to me and I've been working with Dolores for 5 years, I've never spoken to her about her career, I would probably think that Dolores is happy in her current role. So the point here is when you have this plan together, present it to your manager. Say, this is what I hope to do. What are some good tools that you can utilize to help me get there? So definitely engage, you know, someone you trust, your manager, and seek feedback. I'd say continuously update your goals, right? Don't if you don't meet this, if you didn't achieve a pass in the CPA within 2 years, push it out to 3 years, but make sure you are tracking your progress. In the workplace, tracking your progress is important. Like if you don't write it down, you want to know what you did. There are times when people your manager may be so busy they don't even have a chance to really give you credit for it. So it's important that you're writing down this as a part of your goal. As accounting students, I'd say take advantage of seminars, career fairs, mentors is a good thing to have. I never had a mentor until I worked at JP Morgan, and I realized that until I had a mentor, that's when my career took off. I, you know, like the person who introduced me, I forgot, you know, whose name it was, but I started off at Pricewaterhouse Jamaica. Then I thought, you know, I've done auditing, I want to do something else. I looked at jobs overseas, and I came across a hedge fund accounting specialist job in Bermuda. I didn't know what a hedge fund was, and I've never been to Bermuda, but I took a chance. I said, maybe this is something, maybe this is how I get to the next step within my career. I remember that interview, it was during the middle of a hurricane in Jamaica, and I was on a phone call with my then boss in Bermuda. And I said, listen, I don't know what hedge fund accounting is, but I know accounting. So I believe I can translate the skills I've learned as an auditor, and based on my education, I think I can do it. I mean, then I bought books on hedge funds. I read on it. By the time I got to Bermuda, I knew more than I knew before I got there. And so I got training, on the job training. I got good reviews because I was good at the technical stuff, but I was at that specialist level and at the entry level, I was there for maybe 2 years because I was happy with just learning what a hedge fund is. Then I got promoted. I got promoted to the analyst level, Again, it required me to be very technical, and I understood my job and I was good at my job. And then I got stuck at the analyst level for a couple of years. And I said, what am I doing wrong? I remember someone said, get a mentor. And I got a mentor. And my mentor said to me, I know you're good at your job, your skills, you're technical, but does anyone else know that? Do the people who you need to influence outside of your immediate management team, who make the decisions on the next level that you need to be, do they know how good you are? So that was, when he asked that question, I would say that was a pivotal point in my life. And I said, no, they don't. So the first thing he said is you have to be able to market your skills. And by that, he meant make sure people know what you're doing. You're not going to go about showing off, saying I'm great and I'm better than everyone, but take credit for good work you do. If it means sending an email recapping some of, say you did a presentation, send an email thanking everyone, recapping what happened. That's effective because it wouldn't have been on their radar if you didn't do a recap. So simple strategies you can use. But the key here is get someone who you can trust, who's a mentor, who can help you and point in the right direction so that you can foster that personal development. Personal development translates into career growth. And I believe that it's possible because I've seen, these tools work in my own career progression. Like they said, I've been at JP Morgan for 14 years. I probably wrote a resignation letter 3 times, but I'm still there because I invested in my personal development. So I'm at a point now where I'm managing people. I'm working on projects. I'm not just doing, the everyday accounting, which I love. But the point is, I'm able to see different aspects of my job, and that's what keeps me motivated. So career growth, key. So I'm encouraging you guys to really, again, after this session, if you haven't done this before, take the time out to put together, your own plan. Now I'm going to move on. The next slide I have here, you don't have to go through it, but I just thought it was a good example of, I don't know if you guys can you guys see the font on this? Can you read this? It's small, it's very small on my screen.
Yes, it's very small.
It's small.
Yes, it is.
I mean, everyone failed the 2020 test earlier, so
Oh yeah, yeah.
I think Crystal was the only one who probably can read it. But anyway.
But we can zoom it up.
Yeah. Really what this is just a real life example of someone, a good friend of mine who got a promotion at Heart Trust NTA. He's now their human resource manager. So this is just an article that showed someone who, in my opinion, employed some of the personal development tools that we spoke about earlier, where, I'm not going to read through the entire article, but it tells you how he started off his career. He was a trainee, and then he became a research assistant in HR. Then he became a resource officer. But prior to that, if I look at his education, he did a degree in human resource management, which again, you could tell from day one that he set a goal to work in HR. And so he did his studies in HR. He gained experience in HR. He started from the beginning as a trainee. One of the things I liked about his experience here was that he acted as the HR manager. Now, I don't know about Jamaica, but in America, for the most part, when you act in a position, you don't necessarily get paid for it. And I will never discourage anyone from acting in a position above their current position, because if you want to get to the next level, you really want to act at the next level, if that makes sense. Money aside, it really should be seen as an opportunity to move up, because in this guy's case here, he was an HR acting manager, and probably didn't get a lot of money for acting that role. But because he did so well as the acting manager, when it came time to choose an HR manager, I mean, he was obviously first in line because he used the opportunity to make certain changes, and he had several accomplishments. We can read them here, but it was very easy basically for select him. And the one thing I want to point out here is the last sentence, the last paragraph. It says, based on Mr. Dixon's technical competences, his education, his work ethics, and personal values, we are confident that he'll be successful. So it goes to show that it's not just about having the skills and the educational background, having that good work ethic, personal value, right? Some of the personal values are some of our strengths. I was very pleased when at the beginning of this session, when better, evening. Again, core values behind, things that are important to you. They all contribute to who you are in the end, and people see it, right? So this again, it's one person's journey, but everyone can get there if you apply some of these personal development strategies. So that's it on personal development planning. I'm going to move on to time management, but before I move on to time management, any questions on personal development? Anything I've said so far? Anything I haven't said? Feel free to ask a question. Moesha, I see you have your hand raised.
Thank you, Mrs. Taylor. This is Moesha Harris. I'm the president of the accounting seminar. I have a few questions, Mrs. Taylor.
Okay.
Okay. What advice do you have to a accountant doing personal development to efficiently move from self-assessment to the actual target or success criteria?
Thanks, Moesha. So I'm going back to the slide. So advice from an accountant who wants to move from my self-assessment to my right. So it's how do I know move from understanding where I'm at to where I want to be. So it all goes back to that third column here, which are the resources. Like, how do I get there? You're going to have to identify what are some of the resources that I need to get where I need to get. And it all depends on your goals and your objectives. So for someone who wants to, and I gave an example, who wants to move up in their job. So this person here wants a promotion to senior accountant within 3 years. So they're probably saying, okay, what do I need to get there? So I'd say first thing, have a conversation with your manager. Make sure you're on the same page with what you need to get there. I'm going to point to the R in SMART goals. R means relevant. A lot of times your goals aren't relevant to where you need to be. So having that conversation with your manager will allow you to ensure that you're on the same page with your goal and the strategies, and making sure those strategies are relevant to where you want to be. Like you can't be saying, okay, I want to be a senior accountant, but I'm going to do this CFA, random example here. I'm going to do the CFA, my master's, a CPA, ACCA. The question is, do I need to do all four just to get to where I need to be? In speaking with senior manager or someone who you consider a mentor, they may say, no, you don't need to do CPA, ACCA, masters. I'm not saying don't do it, but in my opinion, that's overkill, right? A qualified accountant is a qualified accountant. So you pick one, for example. Let's focus on the ACCA. Make sure that you and your manager are in agreement that if you're qualified, that will set you up for that role because it's a requirement, for example. And then you seek out, the timetable, the timelines, and the resources to get there. So, when are these ACCA courses available, for example? What's the cost? Where do I sign up? How do I sign up? What's the timetable? So again, you're doing research into how to get there. Sometimes you can use your own tools, go online to figure out, okay, timetables, for instance. But my advice here is speak to your manager, speak to a mentor, make sure that your strategies are aligned to your goal, whichever goal it is. So again, it all depends on your goal. And that's how you move from the self-assessment to actual measurement and success criteria. Does that help, Moesha, or do you need me to clarify anything else?
Thank you very much, Mrs. Taylor. Yes, it did. I have one more question. May I go ahead?
Yeah, go ahead.
Awesome. You made mention that you worked at JP Morgan. If you had a mentor before you started working at JP Morgan, in your career, what accounting path would you be on, and do you believe that you would be on an accounting path? And additionally, you made mention about mentors. Why is it important to find or to get a financial mentor?
That's a good question. Could you repeat the first part though? So you mentioned financial mentor,
Sure.
but what was the first part? If I didn't have a mentor, was that the
Yes.
question?
So if you had a mentor before you started working at JP Morgan in your
Yeah.
career path, what accounting path would you have been on if you had one before you started working there? And if you would have been on the accounting path that you are now, if
Yeah,
you
that's
had a mentor?
yeah, I think that one's tricky because it's if I had a mentor, what would they tell me? I mean, I think a mentor would probably at that point tell me to, ensure that you're working towards the education, the right qualifications to accomplish your goal. So if you want to be a senior auditor, sit a professional exam. If you want to go branch off into finance, maybe do the CFA exam, for instance, instead of an ACC or a CPA. They probably haven't discouraged me from leaving Jamaica and going into hedge funds. So again, it's really a personal decision at the end of the day, even though you have a mentor. But I think a good mentor will always give you advice on how to further your career, whether it's gonna be local or overseas or wherever it is. So I'm hoping if I had a mentor, that's what they would have told me. Whatever you need to do, wherever you need to go to be effective, take that path, and employ, and maybe speak to me about some of the skills I need to ensure that I'm successful. And then the second half of your question about financial mentors, could you just repeat that part? I think I want to make sure I get it right.
Sure, Ms. Taylor. It is why is it important to find a financial mentor? Because you had spoken about mentors, so adding the financial aspect to it now, why is it important that as accountants or aspiring accountants, we try to find financial mentors to guide us?
Yeah, I think it's important because normally a financial mentor, I'm going to take it, is someone who is already gained experience and exposure in that area, and they'll have a knowledge base to be able to guide you. So in my example, where my personal mentor said accountants will be counting ants in 10 years, right? Which wasn't good advice because they weren't close to the industry. They didn't know what was going on. They didn't, in their opinion, all they heard about was by 2020, IT is going to take over the world, technology is going to take over the world, a software is going to do your job. So that's what people are hearing. A financial mentor, again, will have that experience. Um, And that's where you'll benefit, because they can tell you about their own personal experience. They can give you real life examples of their own challenges, right? And their own success. And you don't have to follow everything everyone says, but I think just really hearing from someone who has been there is helpful to someone who wants to get there. And again, this is probably someone who's in the industry who can connect you with others within the industry. And that's an important point. I didn't talk about networking a lot here, but that's key. You want to make sure you're connecting with the right people. So by attending some of these accounting seminars, by attending some of these events, which a financial mentor will probably recommend, you're going to meet the right people, right? That's how you get your foot in the door, right? When you're meeting people who are already in the industry that you want to be in. And so someone who is a financial mentor can guide you accordingly in helping you towards a career path. Okay.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Taylor. Well said.
Thanks, Felicia. Natasha, I'm going to take a question. I'm going to move into time management, but let me take that question first because I'm not going to be too long on time management.
Hi, good evening, Mrs. Taylor.
Good evening, Natasha.
My name is Natasha Henry. Welcome to seminar 2021.
Thank you.
Okay, my question to you is if you could change or add anything to the process of where you are now, what would that be? If you could change or add anything to the process.
Natasha, to be honest, I would have, and this is going to be linked to time management. I would have understood better the value of time management and do a bit more. And by that, what I mean is there's still things I could have done, right? I think I had a lot of excuses when I throughout my career where I said, okay, I don't have time, right? I didn't have time. I was so busy at work, I didn't have time to exercise, take care of my spiritual life. I didn't have time to do all. I told myself that I didn't have time, but what I didn't do was manage my time. So that's what I would change. I would probably exercise better time management, which would therefore allow me to do more with my time than I was doing at the time. So I'd probably do further studies, right? So here in the US, I would have probably attended some sort of university here because at my company, do pay for university attendance for employees who are performing at a certain level. So I would have taken advantage of that. That's definitely one thing I do. On a personal level, the other thing I wanted to do was have more children, but I actually did that. So I just had a newborn, like everyone saw. But I decided that these are what I want to do with my life, and it's not too late to do it. So that's my point. So thanks for the question. It's still not late to do further education for me. So it's something on my radar. It's something I definitely change. I want to make sure that I'm more rounded. So that's something I'm looking into at the moment.
Thank you so very much.
Okay. So moving into time management, I did give a snapshot of what I'm going to talk about quickly. But really, what is time management? And time management it involves planning and exercising conscious control of time spent on specific activities, to increase your effectiveness, your efficiency, and your productivity. And it will involve juggling multiple aspects of life: work, life, family, hobbies, personal interests, commitments within a finite time frame. That's really the key here. It's your time management is managing yourself. And I think, because as accounting students, you have come this far, you have done exams, you have done projects, you've all had to exercise time management at some point in your life. It's something that will never go away. I think with even the COVID crisis that we're going through right now, things have changed in terms of how we go about our daily lives. You guys are online versus in person. For those who have children, you're probably homeschooling children as we speak, or supporting remote learning. And all those things are taking time that you never thought you had. So again, how are we how are we managing our time to ensure that we meet our goals and objectives and that we're effective? Within an accounting environment, it is deadline driven. I've never been in any accounting job or position where there's not a deadline. You're going to have a deadline every day. A deadline for deliverables to your client, a deadline for deliverables to your boss, a deadline for almost everything. Monthly reporting, budgeting. I think you guys did a course week on budgeting. There's a deadline for everything. Specifically, if you're looking for a career in audit, you're going to be driven by deadlines because your time is billed to your budgeted. Your line of company, and that it goes against you from a performance perspective. So time, you got to figure out how to manage that. That's going to be key. So on the next slide, we have many time management strategies that we can employ. And there are many fundamentals. So again, time management is going to involve good organizational skills. It will involve being able to prioritize, right, multiple objectives. Like I mentioned, COVID crisis. All of a sudden you have your task, they've doubled, right? Tripled. Things that you never thought about, now you have to think about it. Goal setting. It involves goal setting, it involves communicating, thinking about contingencies, it involves planning. Delegation is a big part of time management, and also stress management. So if I were to do time management in totality, I think you need a whole course, maybe 5 courses for time management. But I just picked one here, prioritization, right? That's really what I want to focus on because I think it's relevant in terms of what we are faced with today, right? In a job setting, time management, it's sometimes it's an opportunity or a weakness on a lot of person's part because someone can be really good at their job, but if they're inefficient or too slow, it can negatively impact them. So you don't want to be that person where you're highly technical, but you're not delivering on time. So it's going to be important for you to practice good time management. So like I said, if you look at the left-hand corner here, I'm going to focus more on prioritization. And to do that, one of the tools that's very useful here is the Matt. His name is Matt Cole, and he developed 4 quadrants of time management. And basically, there's an 80-20 rule that it involves. So it basically says 80% of your time should be spent on important tasks, 20% unimportant. That said, if a task is urgent, you're probably going to be spending 20% of your time on an urgent task. And if it's not urgent, you're probably going to be spending 80%. And these are some examples of, on this grid here, you'll see where certain tasks fall and how you should prioritize them, right? You don't want prioritization to be what holds you back in your career and being effective, because at any point in time, you're going to be given multiple tasks. As a manager, I can tell you my team probably has hundreds of things to do. And the last thing I want them to ask me is, which one should I do? Because I'm going to tell them I need you to do all of them. The key here is how do I prioritize these tasks so that I get it done? Right? So no boss is going to tell you that, yeah, you can do this, but don't do that. We're going to say, yeah, we need to do everything, but based on the urgency and the importance, you're going to have to employ some time management skills. So this is just a good example of some of those urgent, important things that you may face. If it's a crisis or a deadline that's coming up, you're going to have to, you want to prioritize those items. I'm going to go through the entire grid because you can see it here. Certain things are distractions and they fall in that third quadrant there of urgent. Sorry, not important, but urgent. I call them distractions. So phone calls, emails, meetings. They may not add to your end goal, but whoever is imposing them on you makes it seem urgent. So a lot of times someone will, hey, I need you to answer this call, but that's more urgent for them and not necessarily you. So again, you have to look at whenever you're faced with prioritization, you want to see where in this grid does this task fall, and therefore how should I be prioritizing. Now that last quadrant there, I tell you, if you guys raise your hands, it says you should be spending 5% of your time on not urgent and not important things. And I'm going to be honest, I think a lot of people spend I think they have it wrong. They spend the 75% on the not urgent, not important. These involve things like being on social media, watching TV, some phone calls, some emails, entertainment. Not that you shouldn't be doing them. It's if you are faced with prioritizing, this just tells you we're on this grid, those types of time timers should fall. So again, a good guide if you want to follow time management. So again, I'm not going to spend too much time on it. But time management, like I said, it's important. Everyone needs a busy life, so it's important that we figure out how to prioritize using tools such as this 4-quadrant. In time management will help us or give us some sort of framework to do that. So that's it on time management. And just to summarize, personal effectiveness. These are just my sources here. Very important. It's useful for your own career growth, personal growth. It's something that it's deliberate. It's an action. It never ends. If you want to keep moving up the professional ladder, your focus should be on reviewing your goals periodically, working with a trusted partner, mentor, manager to help you execute on those goals, making sure you're holding yourself accountable to those goals. Your time out to relax, employing strategies to reduce stress, for example, to make sure that you're on target. So that's it. I know we went a little bit over, but I see Amanda has a question. So I'm going to pause to take questions in general at this point. Amanda, you want to go ahead?
Good evening again, Mrs. Taylor. Amanda Jones here, Second Vice President. My question to you is this. Have you ever been in a situation where your career goals have been shifted?
Has been shifted?
Your career goals have been shifted, yes.
Oh, my goals. Okay. Yes, definitely. And maybe not in a bad sense, Amanda. Shifted because of the position that I'm in. That's really how it happens for me. Where like I said, I began as a specialist, then I moved to an analyst, then I moved to an associate, then an assistant vice president, and a vice president, then a director. So with each new level, I had to shift my goals very quickly. Obviously, you want to align your goals with your organization. That never ends. But my own goals had to change with each new level. For example, at my level now as an executive director, it's really about influencing persons and contributing to the bottom line, like directly contributing to the bottom line of your company, and managing people. Before, it would be more of working with your peers, um, delivering the final product, which is what we do. Is we do net asset value calculations on funds and private equity funds. That was more when I was an analyst. But with each level, as you move up, you're going to have to start thinking what goals are relevant for that step or that stage of my career. And like I said, I had personal goals. I just had a child. I have one child who's 11 and one who is 2 months old. So that for me was a shift there, but it's something that was deliberate. It keeps changing, like you said. It's something that you have to continuously work on and assess and evaluate as you move through, as you develop and grow. Does that help?
Thank you. Yes, miss. Also, another question.
Yeah.
Ever been in a situation where you're unable to decide which path to take because you have passion for two different things?
Of course. Yeah, that was definitely me. So I mentioned earlier, I wanted, for those of you who were born in the 80s, you probably knew Roy Forrester. He was a meteorologist on JBC/TVJ. Yeah, I just wanted to do geography so I can read the weather. And I wanted to do that for most of my life until I discovered accounting. I'm like, oh, this is actually interesting. Maybe I could make more money here in addition to it being a better, more fulfilling path for me. So, and that happened after, I left high school, because at that point, that's when I decided, okay, after doing 3 subjects which were unrelated, and I had to make a choice between Spanish or geography, I ended up choosing accounting. So that's my story there in terms of how my path changed, or had to change at some point in my life. But thanks for the question. Moesha, I see you have a question, and please feel free to stop me when my time is up, but I'm just taking questions at this point. So I see Moesha has a question.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Taylor. Moesha Harris, President of the Accounting Seminar. I have 2 questions. First question, how do you prioritize 2 urgent tasks when one report is due and at the same time your manager takes an urgent assignment for you to do or calls an urgent meeting? So you would put yourself into the scenario not as a manager that you are now, but as a staff.
And this happens all the time. And this happens to me too, because I also have a manager who always has urgent tasks. Like, he has his own tasks which are urgent. I have my own tasks which are urgent. And he's calling a meeting and I have my tasks working on. Yeah, I'm there all the time. So it's a good question, because that's going to happen to everyone here who ever enters the working world. I think you want to look at that quadrant where you think about the importance of the task. I always ask myself, which is more important? I get that they're both urgent, right? But which one is more important? And importance can mean a lot, can mean different things to different people. So I'd say if your boss wants something and it's urgent, right? An urgent report. First of all, if it's a report, you should have been working on it before and prioritizing that because it has a deadline. Um, if it's a meeting, right, and you're like, do I have to be in this meeting? Am I going to contribute to this meeting? You can simply communicate and ask your boss or tell him that, listen, this is what I'm going on. Can we do this at X time? So a lot of times people are afraid to speak up and say, okay. And again, as an employee, this is what I would do. I would say, okay, I know I need to do X, Y, Z, right? These are the things I have on my plate, but this is when I can do it. So I'm actually taking charge of that situation by proposing an alternative timeline if it allows me to do that. To just gauge from like my manager, like how urgent it is. Because what you're gonna find is that a lot of things that you think are urgent, even if your manager is the one asking you for it, they aren't urgent. And by that I mean you can do them at their time. So a lot of times it doesn't hurt just to say, okay, when do you need this by? You ask those questions. And in addition to asking those types of questions, you propose versus saying, okay, I can't do any of this. Or you just drop your hands. You propose when you can do it. I find that method works a lot in business because people appreciate that you acknowledge the importance of the request and they appreciate having insight into when you plan on doing it. I think that a lot of people are reasonable when it comes to situations like that.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Taylor. I've made notes of what you stated. My last question is, what is the best part about what you are doing now career-wise, and what factors do you consider most when planning a future as an accountant or someone who aspires to work within the accounting field?
So what do I consider important? Sorry, let me just restate your question. What do I consider important as someone working in the accounting field? That's the second part. And the first part was?
What is the best part about what you are doing now career-wise? So you as Mrs. Taylor, what is the best part about what you're doing now in your career path?
Yeah, I think that the best part for me is just the interaction at all levels, right? I'm able to work with managers globally. Like I work with managers in Ireland. That's where our head office is. I work with managers in Brooklyn, New York, Bangalore, India, Philippines, the US. I'm able to participate in special projects. Some of them have nothing to do with accounting, but when you have good work ethic, people will, they'll see it and they'll have no issue with inviting you or presenting other opportunities outside of your immediate job. So I'm able to do that have nothing to do with accounting, my own qualifications, and so it keeps things interesting for me. So that's that part. And sorry, like we're in the graveyard shift, so I forgot the last part of your question. Importance of working in the industry. Can you just repeat that part?
Sure, miss. It says, what factor do you consider most when planning a future as an accountant?
Definitely qualifications, right? An accountant, don't take it for granted. Not everyone knows accounting. I'm also in charge of recruiting where I work, and I've hired a French major before to do an accounting job. It thankfully worked out well. But my point is, not everyone has a qualification. So definitely, I'd say invest in your education. Which I'm glad you're all doing right now by going after that BSc. Invest in further education. Invest in becoming a qualified accountant. It pays off. When I started as a junior auditor, I didn't think I could survive on the salary. But I can tell you, it's one of those careers where as you move up, you're going to get paid. It just goes without saying. But what goes with that is you have to keep getting those, passing those exams, um, getting qualified. That's definitely one. And I'd say don't underplay the soft skills, meaning being able to work well with people, right? People will speak up for you, do things you want them to do when you have a good relationship with them, which I mentioned earlier. So don't ever underplay the need to be respectful, to work well with people, to treat people the way you want to be treated. That's the bottom line. If you want people to do things for you, you you do the same for them. Be willing, and it doesn't matter what level you are. I treat an entry level person the same way I treat a senior manager. I look at requests from both as equally important. And so I find that that has been reciprocated to me. Like, it doesn't matter what level you are, people are going to treat you the way you treat them. Respect people's time. If you are someone who respects people's time, they're going to respect their time. So you basically determine how you want to be treated. That's an advice I can give you there. So just to wrap up, I said technical skills, get that education. Soft skills, work well with people, be respectful, treat people the way you want to be treated. It's gonna pay back. You're gonna see that pay off in your career. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So again, please feel to stop me when you need to. If there are any more, are there any more questions, or do I let the facilitators and the president move on to the remaining parts of the agenda at this point if there are no more questions.
Prezi. Good evening, Prezi.
Good evening,
I
Mr.
am
Matt.
all right. You have called my name. I'm all right, Mrs. Taylor. I've been hearing your presentation, and I like your presentation very much.
Thank you.
Very, very much. Very, very much. Tonight, you're focusing on personal effectiveness, personal development, and time management. Then I'm here. I said to myself, how can one optimize personal development and personal effectiveness and be lousy at time management? Is that possible?
You know what? I hear you. They do go hand in hand. I'd say time management is a tool, and it's one tool that you'll need to be able to employ at being personally effective. But remember, we're not talking about perfect human beings here, because we spoke about the self-assessment where you have to really be honest about where you're at. Am I good at time management? No. If so, what do I do to improve so I can be more effective, right? So it definitely goes hand in hand. I would say it's key. It's not the only thing that will make you effective, but it's key in ensuring you're effective, because the more you can do within a given amount of time, the more you can differentiate yourself from a peer, right? And that's how you have to be able to differentiate your talents and skills and what you bring to the table for you to progress in your career. So yes, time management is important. You can't be effective without it. As you move up, you're going to be asked to do even more than you do. So I don't see how, just to answer your question, you're going to be stagnant at some point if you want to be effective, but you're not managing your time. So it's something you're going to have to continuously work on if you want to really progress in your career.